My name is Clare Nee. I'm one of the assistant directors of undergraduate admissions at Rensselaer. I'm also the liaison for our School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. So I'm really excited to be co-hosting this webinar for all of our accepted students. A big congratulations from all of Rensselaer. You guys are going to hear about some pretty unique majors within Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. So I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Abby Kinchy to get started.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for stopping by to join us this evening in this webinar. My name is Abby Kinchy. I'm a professor in the Science and Technology Studies Department at Rensselaer. I'm a sociologist, and I teach in two different programs. One is called Science, Technology, and Society, and one is called Sustainability Studies. So everyone on this call may be thinking about one or the other of these. You might be thinking of one of these as your main major at RPI, or you might be considering it as a dual major. You might also be considering these as just areas where you'd like to add a minor or take interesting courses related to your other majors. So I'm here to try to answer your questions about all those different options and also sort out what's going to be right for you. So why don't we get started? Let's see if I can get these slides going. Yeah. So I always start here thinking about the different options that we have for our degree programs. So as I mentioned, in one department, which is an interdisciplinary social sciences and humanities department, we have three different programs. One is called Science, Technology, and Society. And in this one, students learn to investigate the social and historical dimensions of science, engineering, and medicine. So you might learn to think like and do research like a historian or like a sociologist or an anthropologist, and you learn all those different research skills. And throughout that, we really think a lot about law, policy, and ethics, trying to make the work that you're doing at RPI and in your future careers relevant to our major issues of the day, whether they're legal or in the policy realm, or thinking about doing our work ethically. Another major that we offer to all of you is sustainability studies. And in this program, we focus on examining human-environment interactions. And again, a lot of our students take the knowledge they gain in sustainability studies to try to develop really concrete sustainability strategies. And that students go a few different routes there. Some focus on public policy. Others are really interested in working at the community or grassroots level. So we do a lot of community engagement. That's in fact one of the big strengths of our program. We have even a course called Community Engagement in a Changing Climate. And our students also in sustainability studies do a lot of hands-on projects. We have a third major that I'm not going to be talking about this evening. There's a separate webinar on there on that topic called Design, Innovation, and Society. This addresses some similar themes to the other two majors I'm talking about, but really has a design focus, and many of the courses are actually based in a design studio setting. So you're going to gain both design experience as well as social research. If that's something that interests you, definitely get in touch with me after this to learn more and to find out about the other webinar that you can take on this topic. So I want to talk about a few of the things you're probably thinking about or the questions that you have about deciding are any of these the right path for you. I'm going to first talk this evening about dual majors at RPI, why you might choose to do that. I am going to talk about some similarities between sustainability studies and science, technology, and society. And I'm going to talk about some differences in how you might be able to choose. For some reason, this is not advancing easily. Here we go. Okay, so dual majors at Rensselaer. This is an important thing to understand as you think about coming here for your studies. So strong students at RPI have an option to complete a dual major to develop really your distinctive career profile. So depending on the combination that you make, that really sets you apart as having a very unique educational and career profile. And the way we construct dual majors, we make them so that you can complete the requirements for both majors in just 4 years. So there's almost an infinite array of combinations you could do. But for example, you might be interested in mechanical engineering, and you might pair that with science, technology, and society. Or maybe you're interested in economics and also sustainability studies. This has been a popular combination. But there are, of course, many other options as well. These are just a few to get you thinking about why you might and how you might do a dual major. But whichever path you choose, whether it's sustainability studies or science, technology, and society, the programs have a strong focus on research and careers. So you'll be learning research methods from experts in sociology, in history, and anthropology. You will likely collaborate, or at least have the opportunity to collaborate on faculty research projects. Many of our students do that. All of our students write and present a senior thesis. You'll also take a careers course, so specifically focused on developing career pathways in your specific area. In fact, we just had this amazing event on a career development event on campus today around climate change and sustainability careers. And there were employers from the region, lots of different types of jobs being presented, and networking opportunities for our students. You will also, in the program, get support for internships in law, policy, and community development. And we could talk a little bit about internships later. So now I want to talk specifically about each one of these programs. So Science, Technology, and Society, or STS as we call it. In that major, you'll take courses like bioethics, history of American technology, medicine, culture, and society, gender, science, and technology, politics of design, drugs and history, and many other courses like this. Our students think a lot about pre-professional options. So, for example, you could structure your curriculum here to really focus on going to law school. It's often a really popular next step for STS majors. And because we are adjacent to the New York State Capitol, it means there's often really a lot of legislative internship opportunities. And I also want to note that the STS major provides a lot of the requirements for admission to graduate programs in medicine or other health careers. I see a couple things just coming in the chat. Let me just have a little glimpse. Okay, good questions. I'm going to try to answer these now and before going on, because these are good ones. So how do the additional classes for dual majors work? Are there options to take classes that fill in requirements for both of your majors? So for specifically, excuse me, civil engineering and sustainability studies. So yes, it's a little complicated to explain, but basically whichever major you're in, there's groups of classes that you need to take that are in the humanities, arts, and social sciences core or the science core, and then you also have free electives. And what we do is we take those sort of groups of courses and figure out how to mesh them together so that you can complete the requirements for both of the majors within 4 years. Sometimes it does take some rigor. You do need to anticipate it pretty early on in your time at RPI, so that you're choosing your courses appropriately to be able to complete those requirements. But what we do is we sit down with you and we put together a plan of study so that you are able to do it without taking a whole lot of additional classes or even any additional classes. I think I'm gonna save these other questions until the end because there's a whole bunch of additional ones, but I'm gonna come back to them at the end. And I just remembered before going on any further, on the previous slide when I was talking a little bit about research and careers, I just remembered that we actually have someone on the call here today who's one of our current students. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her research and some career development work that has happened. So I'm going to hand things over to Xiomara for a second. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit.
Awesome. Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Xiomara Jean-Louis. I'm a senior graduating this semester with one of the dual majors that was mentioned on the last slide, in sustainability and economics. So if you have any questions on how that works, I can answer them. Granted, they are both majors in a high school, so it was a little easier for me to create the dual major than, say, like with nuclear engineering and then economics or something. But I have had a lot of experience with research within HAS. I'm currently doing a URP, an undergraduate research project with um, the School of Engineering. So there is the chance for you to use methods that you learn in these research courses in interdisciplinary projects, especially if you're looking at like widely applicable skills like interviewing or data analysis. But with my research, my senior thesis is looking into how the degrowth environmental movement uh, interacts with academics around the United States, mostly in the Northeast, because we're in Troy. And then I use discourse analysis and do interviews with several activists to understand what the minutiae of those interactions are. I've also done research in politics and Black histories. I've published a paper on Haiti and how Christianity influences American policy towards Haiti, and I've just submitted another paper on how Haiti's current gang crises and health systems are reliant on American policy, and how some literature in Black radical thought can be used to explain that. So there's definitely a lot of room for you to do maybe unconventional research within Haas, like I have, since we don't have like religion majors or anything like that. But there's definitely a wide berth of opportunities within major.
Yeah, that's great. And I've seen Xiomara present this work, and it's really impressive, your presentation skills. I mean, those are career skills that you're going to take on for the rest of your, for the rest of your life. So one thing we really do pride ourselves on is creating opportunities for students to repeatedly present their work and their original ideas. And so by the end, we see these really polished thinkers and communicators. It's one of the strengths of our programs, or at least we really try. And, so I talked a little bit about this major. I want to go on to the next slide, which for some reason is stuck. Okay, so just to give you, oops, we jumped ahead. Here we go. So here are some examples of some other students who, in fairly recent alumni from our program, just to give an example of how the STS major works really well for students who are interested in a pre-law or pre-med path. And I saw there was a question in the chat about medical school or other public health related careers. So we do, actually, one of the things about STS is that we offer a lot of the courses that med schools are now looking for. They want you to take sociology, they want you to have some other humanities experience. And those are the kinds of things that actually show up on the MCAT exams now. So we really do encourage our pre-med students to at least take some classes with us, but you can actually use your STS degree then to do research that is going to give you a distinctive profile when applying for med school. So Maggie Colther, she really had a passion for emergency medicine, and she did. I remember her senior thesis project was about the opioid crisis. And then she's gone on to a really exciting career in public health, did some additional graduate work after our program. And then likewise, students will jump from our program into law school, as I mentioned before. So Samran here, I worked with her a lot on her, in her studies and on her thesis, and she used her STS degree as well as her experience as a legislative fellow for the New York State Senate while she was here at RPI to launch a really successful legal career. You can look her up online. She's doing really amazing things right now. So let's go on to sustainability studies, though, since I mentioned we do have these two different programs. Sustainability studies, one of the things that distinguishes it, of course, is the kinds of classes that students take. So you might start off, maybe the first class you take your freshman year in the program would be something called sustainability debates. You go on to take environment and society, which uses sociological ideas to think about human environment interactions. We've got some great new courses like human futures and environmental justice. The course that I've been teaching for a long time is called Food, Farms, and Famine. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that later. And another new course is Community Engagement in a Changing Climate, which we're really excited about. And one of the things that I just want to profile that's, I think, important and distinctive about sustainability studies is that we have what we call a living learning community. There's a first-year dorm called Vasuda, and it's so cool, and I think not enough incoming students know about it. So I'm telling you now that when you're working on your housing arrangements at RPI, request to be in Vasuda if you're interested in anything to do with environmental issues. It's really cool. It's a community, it's a shared classroom. There's a student garden, which is really wonderful. And there's a ton of different activities. So there's lots of programming like outings to parks to hikes, special events and lectures. It's a really, really cool opportunity for students who are interested in the environment. We also, ever since the pandemic, have really started doing lots of things on Discord, and there's now this huge student and alumni network on Discord all around sustainability at RPI. And our students often participate in clubs like the Student Sustainability Task Force, the Rensselaer Outing Club, and many others. So just to give you a sense, these are some of the activities just very recently that our sustainability students have been doing. I mentioned outings, right? So going out and learning about mushrooms in Prospect Park, one of our local parks. The Vasuda Garden, which has been just an incredible and growing resource. Just a student-led gardening project. And then most recently, we've had students who have been involved in the environmental justice course get involved in work on the ground here in Troy, New York, where we've had an issue of some of the pipes in our water system being made of lead. And so there's been some canvassing to try to get the word out about efforts that the city is making to try to remedy this problem. So our students have been really, really actively involved in that as well. So either one of these programs could be right for you if you're interested in getting a well-rounded education. If you like to be in small classes, we pride ourselves on more small, intimate classroom experiences, and for doing really people-centered research. Either of these programs could really be good for you. But I want you to think about what your passion is. We really do try to encourage students to pursue their passions here. So if you're someone who cares about the climate crisis, you're concerned about pollution, you are want to do something about habitat loss, sustainability studies is calling to you. Like it's clearly a good fit for you. But if you could also think about the degree in science and technology studies, maybe you have critical questions about artificial intelligence. Maybe you're really concerned about the directions of public health policy, what we can be doing to, prevent the next pandemic. Maybe you're passionate about transportation systems and making them work better for more people. STS is a program that can really allow you to pursue those individualized research interests and build that into your curriculum. You might also want to think about your career plans. So sustainability studies, we really try to focus on preparing you to work as an environmental expert in government, in industry, in nonprofits. STS, we really see our students going on to work in many different fields. It's very good for students who are interested in working in a technical field where you really benefit from understanding human dimensions. And employers really like to see this. They want, even if you're going into an engineering firm, a tech company, employers value good communicators and critical thinkers with research skills. And that is what we're producing in STS. So both of these programs have an emphasis on research. They're both great preparation for grad school. And so you could also think about these as gateways into law or medical school, or even into a PhD in another field. So I'm going to wrap up the formal part of my presentation here so that you can ask me questions. I do want to recommend that to get the best advising experience here, incoming first-year students should declare sustainability or STS as either your first or second major. If you don't list one of these majors as you're coming in, we might take a while to find you and to be able to advise you about putting together those dual major templates. So it's really important that you indicate early on that that's something you're interested in, and then we can really begin advising you right away. So I've given my email address here. Please jot that down if you think you might want to follow up with more questions. And I also just want to give Xiomara an opportunity around careers and thinking about those questions before we move on and open up to questions. So I'm going to hand things back over to her.
Yeah, I am graduating and I'm applying to grad school while also working at the same time. So if you have any questions, you can always ask me in the chat, or I can leave my LinkedIn or my email in the chat box in a few minutes. But just for like an overview of what students in SDS might like see as part of their internship experience or their like career preparation while at RPI, I've interns with the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, which is sort of the clean energy and climate prevention arm of the New York State government. A lot of us, since we are so close to Albany, do intern with the New York State government. With SDS and sustainability careers, we're predisposed towards NYSERDA, and they're a really great company. I've also worked with environmental consultancies out in California. How easy was it to find internships on RPI? It was pretty easy. The CCPD does regularly email you with internships for you to look for. If not, then they always have drop-in hours for people who need resources or referrals to different places. I don't know if you've seen in other admissions talks, but all students at RPI do participate in the ARCH program, which is a semester of your junior year that's built in for you to go out and have an internship. And usually around that time, if you haven't had an internship already, they'll specifically email you to begin a process of finding you one before the time comes around. So there's always an option and availability for you to go find an internship. But again, I've interned for NYSERDA, environmental consultancies, and I'm going to go work after an internship with a Fortune 500 bank named Capital One. So that's just a preview of what you can get into if you're a workaholic like I am. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. There's just so many opportunities, and because these are relatively small programs, and as I mentioned before, our class size is small. Especially once you're into the more advanced level classes, we usually cap those classes at 19 students. So you're going to get to know your professors really well, and your professors will get to know you really well, and that means, more easily matching you with research opportunities, career opportunities, internships, and so forth. So that's just another thing to think about. Should I start to tackle some questions here in the chat? I think I already addressed one. Can you do a double major as pre-med? Absolutely, and we strongly encourage it. So there are, lots of different combinations of degrees that you can do if you are pre-med. But I would really urge you to think about either SDS or sustainability studies to support pre-med, particularly because those courses really help you prepare for med school. Let's see, I see some computer science questions. Co-ops. Yeah, so co-op programs, RPI, definitely, and Claire can probably talk a little bit more about the specifics of that. There is a whole sort of career development infrastructure here at RPI, so trying to connect students with job opportunities. And so I'll answer the second part of this question before handing it to Claire to talk about co-ops, but I just wanted to say, if planning to take a dual major, would it cost more if I need to take additional classes? Only if you end up adding another semester on. But like I've said before, if you get advising early on about a dual major, in almost all cases, students are able to complete a dual major in the same number of semesters. You don't need to add something on. Sometimes a student will need to take an extra course or, go part-time for one more semester if it took them a while to decide whether to do a dual major and they're adding it on later. Then maybe, they miss their opportunity to take some courses early on, but that doesn't usually happen. Usually we make it work pretty early on. Claire, would you like to speak a little bit about co-ops?
Yes, so we do have a lot of opportunities for co-ops, internships, research positions, any type of experiential learning like we were talking about earlier. You can either save for your semester away after your Arch summer, or you can start getting involved with things on campus and in the surrounding areas as soon as second semester of your freshman year. So there's plenty of opportunities to get involved. I would say the sooner you can get involved, the better, because you might fall in love with something, or you might experience something that maybe you definitely don't want to do after you're done with your degree. And that's equally as valuable, right? Because you're still in the process of getting your education, and there's still plenty of chances to pivot, if you will, with those changes. So we do have the CCPD office, so the Center for Career and Professional Development office. They will be instrumental in helping you do anything from building your resumes, your cover letters, sharpening your interview skills if you do want to work one-on-one with a coach. They do also host our career fairs on campus. We have two big ones, one in the fall and one in the spring. But throughout the year, we host just over 500 companies for recruitment opportunities. So even if you're not at the point where you want to start applying, I always encourage students to maybe pack a professional outfit and attend with some of your peers from your residential hall, I'm sure will be attending, just to see what's out there within your designated field. So know that that's an option, and that we also have a platform called Handshake if you did want to look for those opportunities for experiential learning closer to home, if you are away from the capital region.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I see some more great questions in here. One is about internships. Does it have to be connected to your major or can it be a different topic? It can be either. So students, we try to encourage students to pursue their passions, as I said. So sometimes it's doing an internship that takes you into uncharted territory for you that really puts you on a new career path. So we really support students taking some time to explore what's really meaningful to them. Um, there's a question here about a dual major with sustainability and the Bachelor of Architecture program. So that is one tricky one. So architecture has a pretty unique curriculum, being a 5-year degree. And what we find is that a dual major is challenging, but a minor between architecture and sustainability makes a ton of sense. And in fact, we have so many architecture students who are interested in sustainability and are either doing a minor or they're doing a slightly lesser, we have something here called pathways, and those are sort of like 3-credit concentrations. And so a lot of architecture students are doing the sustainability pathway. Okay, wow, there's so many questions. Let's keep going. Cool, thanks for answering the student ratio. Applying to the BSMD program. Claire, is that something you could speak to?
Yes, so the BSMD program, I know we talked a little bit about maybe pre-med students. That one is a little bit different than our typical admissions process, because it is a joint program with Albany Medical College, and it is a 7-year direct admit into med school. So it's an accelerated route. It's not the only route if you're interested in going into pre-health or pre-med, but know that that is kind of its own entity as far as the application process goes.
Okay. And then how about there's a question here about someone who has not taken a physics class, but it's required before coming to RPI. And the question is it possible to take a physics class at RPI or maybe take the class as a summer course before coming?
So yes, we have tons of students who might still have to take their physics class. It is a requirement for RPI for all of our majors, just to give you options when you come to campus, depending on which major you end up sticking with. So it is required for all students to have, but if you haven't already taken it, you don't have to have that condition completed by the time that you make your deposit to attend RPI. You can actually do it the summer prior to the fall start. I definitely recommend it, especially because I know you guys have a lot on your plate as soon to be graduating students. So you can definitely take it during the summer. It could be online or at a local community college. You can reach out to the admissions team and I can give you a couple different recommendations of programs that we've seen students utilize in the past. But you have plenty of time. So if that is kind of impacting how soon you put down your deposit, know that you can certainly do it in the summer.
A good question here from Piper asking, is it possible to take some of these courses as electives if pursuing a more technical degree? Absolutely. Yeah, so as I mentioned just a second ago, we have something called integrative pathways in the School of Haas at RPI. And basically what that means is every student at RPI has to take a Haas core, so about 6 courses in the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. And within those, you're going to do a pathway. So that's kind of a concentration in a particular area. So all students are going to be taking classes in the humanities, arts, and social sciences. But if you're especially interested in the kinds of things I've been talking about this evening or the courses that I listed on some previous slides, yes, you could take those as electives or as not even as electives, you could take them as part of your Haas core. So definitely keep that in mind. But one thing I'll recommend, if you're interested in the kind of courses that I've just been talking about, be sure that in your first year, or even your first semester, you sign up for one of our 1000 level courses that has either an environmental theme or is listed as being relevant to the science, technology, and society program. And that's going to then be a prerequisite for many of the other courses that we're doing later. So if you're coming to RPI and you're interested in this, be sure to talk to an advisor as you're signing up for your first semester course and say, hey, I haven't made up my mind yet, but think I'm going to be interested in sustainability. Then you want to make sure that you get one of those courses that's going to open all those doors as a prerequisite for everything, all the other courses later on. Let's see, study abroad. Could you talk about that one, Claire? Oh, maybe you already responded here, but if there's more to say.
I don't think I touched on study abroad yet. So study abroad is an option for a lot of our students and majors at Rensselaer. It's definitely something that I encourage. If you're already in the process of your education, why not experience a whole new, an immersive experience in a different culture? We do see a good amount of our students, specifically within architecture, studying abroad, but I think your student also mentioned that you went abroad prior? Yes. Okay. So it is an option, I guess, for sustainability studies as well. So how to get started with that, even if you're just from the accepted student position or perspective, I would say to reach out to the advising hub and touch base with them to see if students have gone and studied abroad in the past, but also to reach out to our study abroad office because they will be able to tell you, yes, students within your major have studied abroad in the past, and here are the different countries they've gone to, or even the advisors will be a bit better about recommending times in your education to do it. So I would say the sooner you mention that, the better, so that they can help you be strategic if you do end up coming to Rensselaer.
I see a question here about does STS look into technology equity in less developed areas and how technology affects the general population? Yes, this is a topic that we're especially excited about, and some classes where you might look into those things are in one course called Environmental Justice, which looks at equity and our environmental problems and environmental solutions. And so it deals a lot with developing thinking about equity when we develop technologies that have environmental implications. And then we've also got this great course called Globalization and Development. So I think that course also speaks directly to the themes that you're talking about there. And I see that Xiomara has also responded to that with some examples as well. That's great. And yes, so there's also Engineers Without Borders, a campus club. That's a great, totally focused on that theme as well. Okay, let's see. Another question about the BSMD. Maybe that was addressed already in that particular question. What specific recruiting opportunities available to graduates with the sustainability studies degree with which companies and organizations? Oh, super super good question. I wish I had I could send this as a follow-up. So today we just had on campus the Youth Career Climate Summit. So this was this really interesting set of speakers, employer panels, little discussion groups. It was a whole day event thinking about career prospects in the context of climate change, right? What kinds of jobs do we need in the future? And who are the employers in our region and more broadly that are creating opportunities for people like you? So we had folks from New York State agencies. There were a variety of different companies, energy companies. I don't have the whole list in front of me, so I'm not giving you specific names, but I'd be happy to follow up by sharing that. It was a very cool event, and we do something like that every year, some kind of sort of an alternative job fair, bringing a wider range of career options that are really specifically tailored to students who are interested in environmental and social justice oriented jobs. So, okay, a few more things. Do any of these majors? Yeah, so what kinds of jobs do students end up in? Well, especially our students who are dual majors, oftentimes they will pursue, their passion in engineering or computer science or architecture, but they go on to be, desirable employees and work well, on interesting projects because of the kinds of research, critical thinking, and communication skills that they gain in our majors. So, it's good to think about these degree programs as not choosing between a technical field and a social field or a humanities field, but actually recognize that the sort of career environment that we have now is one where you really need to cultivate a combination of those skills. So yeah, you can definitely go on to a career that's still very heavy on science and math and research. But you are also going to have to, communicate about what you've learned and what you're thinking and the implications of the work that you're doing. And that's one thing that we really try to focus on. Let's see. How closely are sustainability studies courses tied to engineering courses? Well, I might approach this question maybe a little bit differently. I'll tell you. So I'm a sociologist. I do research on um, environmental issues that affect people in specific communities. So right now, my big research topic is about lead contamination in cities. And so I'm interested in the social dimensions of that. How do people organize to make change? What are the political ramifications of environmental problems like legacy lead and paint and water pipes? What are the dimensions of social inequality involved in that? But because of that research interest and the research that I've been doing on that topic for a few years, I'm now collaborating with a team of engineers in the electrical engineering department where we're working on developing new kinds of sensors for toxic contamination in soils. So it's a really, I give that example as an illustration of how the kinds of work that we do in one part of our lives in the STS department has direct implications for what folks are doing in the engineering departments. And so as a student, if you're able to bring those two things together, it might not happen in the classroom, right? Sometimes it's hard to bring those two things together in one classroom, but it will probably happen in your senior thesis project, in your research experiences, and just in the way that you interact with your classmates across campus. So we are always having those conversations across schools at RPI, and I'm trying to model that as a researcher, and I want my students to learn that from me. And so I do hope that we are able to achieve that here. It's really important to us. Let's see what other questions are on here. I've lost track. Claire, do you see one here that I especially need to answer?
We had one that's pretty specific. Does STS and sustainability studies touch on antitrust and monopoly and how it affects research and development?
Yeah, what a great question. I'm trying to remember. I seem to think I had a so I teach this class food, farms, and famine, I mentioned before. And I remember the last time I taught it, one of the students, so all the students write a research paper in that class. They spend the semester investigating a topic. And one of the students was looking on the issue of patenting, not only patenting of plants and seeds, but also patenting of farm equipment and other kinds of controls on intellectual property on farm equipment that was making it so that that has made it so that farmers are not actually don't have the right to repair their farm machinery. So you may have heard of the right to repair. People have talked about this idea around your iPhone and other technology where companies don't actually want you to open up and fix those things. They want to keep it within the control of that company. And so this was one example of a student thinking about, they were really interested in questions about patents, corporate control over knowledge and technology, and then they figured out, oh, we can examine these issues in the context of food and agriculture. It was such a fascinating paper, really, really interesting. So not directly about monopolies and antitrust, but very similar kinds of themes. And I'll just tell you, many of our students are very, very interested in those kinds of topics and go on to think of, think and write about them in many ways. So yes, that's directly relevant. Other questions?
There was one about if students in STS program are able to apply to accelerated BS PhD program.
We do have the accelerated BS MS program. Yes, so you could do a master's degree in science and technology studies. So that's so we do have a PhD program in science and technology studies, and the master's student. So if you do the accelerated MS, you will be taking classes with our PhD students after so it's a way to really get a big jump on graduate study at the end of the program, and I definitely encourage that for students who are really especially interested in going on to further study and research. Mhm. um, yeah, I think that I tackled all the questions here. If I missed one, feel free to post it again. I'm sorry if I missed your question. Oh, there was a question, will this later be visible on the applicant portal? I'm recording this meeting and we'll put it on the STS department YouTube channel. And I'll make the link available so it can be shared elsewhere. So yeah, you could watch this again and share it with others.
Yeah, and for the admission side of things, you guys can just reach out to the admissions office and I can get you all of the links needed.
Another question that just came into me, can AP courses be used for credit? Yes. What's the maximum number of AP credits, Claire?
Oh, I don't know that one off the top of my head. For APs, it does depend on the test subject as far as what scores need to carry for APs and IBs in order to get college credit for it. But that will be a process that after you put down your deposit and commit to Rensselaer, you would start working with the registrar's office and your advisors to see how it would translate into the degree itself, because it does depend on the major that you come in with as far as what electives or courses it would fulfill on the other side of things. So that's a process you can get started with. As soon as you deposit and commit to Rensselaer, they can start helping you navigate how those college credits will transfer in if you got the scores that are required for it.
Okay, thanks for that. Oh, interesting question. Is there a course specifically about sustainable construction materials and methods? So not in our sustainability studies program, but I'm guessing. So there's two other programs. If you're interested in sustainability, have a look at environmental engineering. So that's in the civil and environmental engineering department. And yeah, they must have a course on that topic. Just knowing the folks who are in that program, I often will interact with and collaborate with people in that program. School of Architecture may also have something relevant. There's a big focus on sustainable construction in the School of Architecture. Those would be my two main places. If that's something you're really interested in, have a look at. I mean, so even though we're the only program that has the name sustainability in it, but if you're interested in environmental issues, there are a lot of different places at RPI, a lot of different programs in RPI where students are working on environmental issues. And so do your research into that and think about, could you do a dual major between environmental engineering and sustainability studies? That's a really good combination as well.
And I know
Um,
that certainly there's research opportunities specifically in that area on campus. I'm thinking of what we call research row. So it's like Hogswell Laboratory and then the materials. I'm blanking on the full name of it, but we have a whole building specifically for
did Claire just freeze up or is it on my end? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to continue. Okay, great. Sorry about that. I was worrying that it was going to freeze up on my end. I've been having some issues, but here we are. So she'll be back in a second, I'm sure. Let's see. How many credits will be involved in a dual civil engineering and sustainability studies? I don't have that answer just offhand, but I do know that that one is not particularly difficult to do as a dual. We have already figured out plans of study for how to put those two together, so students can complete that dual in the normal 4 years. Sustainable healthcare is a super. I would love to talk with you more about what you're thinking about with this idea of sustainable healthcare. Um, I'm just thinking about, we have a course, we just hired a new professor last year who's been teaching this course. I'm forgetting the name of the course off the top of my head, but it is about pandemics and epidemics. So it's really responding to the, coming out of the COVID-19 crisis, but thinking about healthcare as interwoven with global climate change, international travel, like thinking about all the ways that we live that are linked up with sustainability issues in the future of the planet, as well as our health and the spread of disease. So that's a really interesting course and might be linked up to what you mean in terms of sustainable healthcare. I'm sure there's other aspects of sustainable healthcare that that you're thinking about here, but if you want to add more about that in the chat, I'd be really interested in engaging about that. Okay, so great. Thanks for posting that about transferring. What else do we have here? Well, any further questions? Let me have a look at the time. We have about 10 more minutes if people want to ask more questions. Otherwise, I can let you go for the evening. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions coming in. Oh, environmental health. Oh, okay. Oh, how interesting. Well, I'm fascinated with this. Yes, you could definitely study this. I'm already thinking about, ooh, how would we investigate this in a research paper? And that's really, really interesting. So yeah, healthcare adds 5% of greenhouse gases. Yeah, let's learn more about that. I'm really interested. Okay. Oh, Claire's back. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Robotics
I
program.
apologize. My
That's all.
technology.
I know. I was afraid it was going to happen to me, but
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Robotics programs under STS. So they're not under STS, but there are folks in the cognitive science program that work on robotics. So that's a place in the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences that you might not think to look, but definitely check out cognitive science. That would be a place. I saw a comment earlier, someone was interested in artificial intelligence. That's also a department where they're doing a lot of interesting thinking about artificial intelligence. So definitely check out that major as well. Okay, well, I think that's it. But please, you see my email address up there on the screen. It's been up here all that time. Feel free to drop me a line. I'm happy to answer any questions that occur to you after this meeting. And I do hope you'll come and join us here at RPI. There's a lot of opportunities for all the different kinds of interests that you have. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for bringing all of the great questions at 7 p.m. I appreciated the energy. I also listed my email as well. So again, just another contact for you. And let us know if you have any follow-up questions.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great night. Okay, I'm gonna end it now. Thank you so much. Good night.